Before you start, let's just make sure to mute when we're not talking, so we have a lot of background noise right now.
Gotcha. Who's got the background noise?
We all do.
Is it me too?
Yeah, all of us have background noise. It's kind of weird right now.
Classic. We gotta get the birds back in here. All right. Whenever Topper's ready, we'll get started.
I was just turning off a fan. See if that helped. Okay.
No problem. Anthony, LiliPod or behind? This is LiliPod, right?
LiliPod episode 6.
Awesome. All right. We're gonna go in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to episode. No, that's not going to work. You can't say that order. Cut that. We'll start that over. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of LiliPod. Today we have Topper, the builder of Crypto Colosseum, Larva Maiorum, here alongside Lord Gandhi and myself, the great Axios. We're going to be asking Topper some questions about Larva Maiorum. We want to get a little bit of background that we can then pass on to you guys, our amazing community. Topper, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So we'll get right into it today. Something that I think a lot of people want to know, myself included. We've seen a lot of stuff. There's no better way to put it. A lot of stuff coming out on social media channels regarding Crypto Colosseum, and more specifically, the upcoming Larva Maiorum game. And I would just really like to get the tried and true, the most basic, down-to-earth description that we can of what should we be expecting when Larva Maiorum.
Yep. So, one, there's not going to be Larva Maiorum is going to be coming out phased, right? And we have a roadmap in our white paper about how it's going to be released. At its basic, it's it's the game that we always have been dreaming about while we've been running Crypto Colosseum Classic. It's a gladiator battle game with some sort of real-time strategy elements involved with it too, and all set in an alternative Rome where the populace has discovered something called Woodgump, which is a healing substance, and also has some psychoactive properties. But it allows the society to completely cure all illness and death, which allows gladiators to battle without dying. And so it has shifted the economy. So when you go to play Larva Maiorum, you can be battling gladiators. You can be building. Building items in the game. You can be going out into the Arctic jungle, which I think we can talk about a little bit, and collecting Woodgump. And so it's designed to be a game that can be really casual, kind of like passive, or you can really get into it and build up your character, get into the lore, chat with the other people playing. It's fun. It's social. We use all sorts of cool cutting-edge technology from blockchain to AI and all sorts of stuff, and it's going to be fun. I could talk about it forever, but I'll pause there for a second, I guess.
That was awesome. So I love that statement. All the different cutting edge technologies combined with both this passive and kind of more aggressive style game. You can kind of get both aspects, or you can kind of pick and choose your poison based on what you prefer. I think that's something pretty unique that we haven't seen in necessarily a lot of blockchain games. Usually they're one or the other. That being said, I think there's probably a reason you guys are able to do some of these things now. And from our understanding, we can contribute this to the team's decision to move the next iteration of this series, right? So we have Crypto Colosseum Classic, which is currently running on the Polygon network, from my understanding. And the upcoming Larva Maiorum edition of Crypto Colosseum, which is going to be running on scale. What made your team, yourself, kind of grab on the scale and say, this is what we need to do something even better. This is what we need to do to continue moving forward and making a name for ourselves in the space?
Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons, both technology and community-wise, right? So I think scale is a pretty cool place to be for both of these things. I'll start with the technology side because that's easiest to explain, maybe. We were researching a lot of how to build what would eventually become Larva Maiorum, and we realized we had, in our current technology stack, we had to move a lot off-chain, a lot of the execution layer off-chain, just because in our current game we deal with a couple of things that make gameplay kind of annoying for some of our players. Two major things. One is reorgs happen a ton, and we have an outcome-based game, and so if the outcome changes after the fact, it's kind of it really ruins the mystique of it, right? Hey, I won. Oh no, I didn't win, right? And then the other one was gas prices being extremely volatile, and at times unusable. Basically, it makes sense to do a large DeFi transaction when the fee can be $1,000 or whatever, but it doesn't make any sense at all to have a roll of the dice for a game be expensive. So those were kind of the two things that we were leaning towards moving more off-chain. Our decision when we looked at scale early on, we try to phrase this exactly since I'm talking to the scale community, but originally we had said this is not for us because we're not a popular enough game to have an isolated chain. That's what we had originally thought. But then when we heard about V2, that changes the game. That changes, pun intended, I guess, changes the game completely. Where when now that apps can actually talk to each other across the chains, you can add back in composability, but where they can't actually affect each other, scale wise, pun intended again. It really makes for a really optimal experience for games. So with Larva Maiorum now, we were able to rethink a lot of that, move a lot of the logic back to on-chain, which is better, I think, just in general. Provable and less centralization is what we like in this industry, right? But now I can do things like have Ruby exchange there, right, and have people move their value from various chains, trade it, and then come to our game. And the Calypso Hub is launching, so there's going to be an NFT marketplaces there, which is extremely important to our game. So now that we can actually go and build with people and have composable apps, but meanwhile still have gas-free transactions to onboard our users, and also I'm not going to be worried that Ruby, has a 10,000% APR and the market crashes 90%, so everyone's trying to get in and shift their balances around. I don't have to worry that that's happening over there because it's not going to affect my players in my game. And that's the sort of big technology stuff for me, is that keeping composability but removing the sort of interdependence of resources is a really big deal for projects that are meant to just be fun and not, multi-million-dollar transactions. So that's the technology side.
Please. Let's keep going. Let's follow this up with the community. I think our listeners will love to hear how they come into play into your guys' decision.
Yeah, so it's it's been super fun to just join the community a little bit. We're still new here. We know that. We still have to prove ourselves and do some more. But people have been very welcoming, and it's a small community now, but very passionate. I think Jack says this all the time, right? It may not be the biggest, but it's the best community. And I think for a long time, there hasn't, because of the lack of composability, there hasn't been a lot to do, right? The scale people have been holders, they've loved the network, they've been interested in the technology, there's been some stuff for them to do, but it hasn't exploded as an exponentially growing ecosystem because of the apps not being able to talk to each other. now the V2 is coming. It's fun to be like in what amounts to a new community, right? It's we're able to participate in this growing early ecosystem with people who have been around and passionate and can learn from them, right? But still be here with all these other builders, with all the fans, with people ready to play games. Like it's fun to be early to any sort of community.
That's good. It's glad to have you here. With V2, it opens up the doors for collaboration between projects. And I've seen you guys on Twitter doing collaboration with like Ruby Exchange, the different masks coming out. If you can give a little more detail into what those masks can do, what are they?
Yep. So we're going to separate. So what we've been releasing are badges. It's called the Badge of Assembly.
All right. Yep.
So I'll step back. I'll go into the weeds a little bit for your audience, maybe. But we'll start. Let me start with badges of assembly. We've released 3 badges. One was if anyone who had over 1,000 scale on mainnet. This is before Ruby Exchange launched, so I want to do an update to support Ruby also, but it was mainnet scale. Could mint this badge, which showed you to be a holder of ancient power, right? Like as we release our game, a lot of our lore sort of actually involves scale, and so this badge shows you that you've been around. Shows everybody that you've been around since early days of scale. And then when Ruby launched, Ruby's an important project for our game, so we've been kind of waiting for it too. I think a lot of people have, and so we wanted to show our support there too. And so we set it up so that anyone who had done one transaction on Europa was able to mint a Ruby themed badge. And then we just did another one just for fun, Scale Enjoyer. Scale shot up 30 or 40% one day when everything crashed, and so it was a fun day just to celebrate the scale price movement. So we just released the Scale Enjoyer badge. We plan to do a lot more, and the whole thing is built to be similar to a POAP, a proof of attendance protocol that exists on mainnet. It's designed to be similar to that, and it's all set up to allow people to mint their own badges, actually, also. And so we just haven't built the UI for that, but eventually we just want to open it up to anyone on the Scale community to be able to create their own badge and ship it. For us in particular, the badges that we have released, there's going to be some fun stuff that lets you do soon, which not quite ready to alpha leak yet, but you should, if you have access to go mint that badge, you should probably do it, I guess. Yeah.
Well, so I messed up earlier. What's the difference between a mask and a badge? Can you share that?
Yes, I can. So the masks are going to be the first step into the release of Larva Maiorum. So we have the badges now because we wanted to have something fun for people to do. We're going to release a little mini game called Delph's Table. Badges may or may not have something to do with that. And we wanted to get that out because we still want to wait on NFT hubs and stuff like that before releasing the masks. So we're going to have Delph's Table coming up, and then we're going to do the masks. The masks are Rootgump infused masks. There's going to be 1,111 Genesis masks. The Genesis masks will give you the ability to mint the 2 best, so it's 4 categories of items, the 4 best categories of items in the next release of the game. Now, what was a little different than ours is you're not going to have to burn that mask, you get to keep that, but they have a one-time use. Basically, you enter a summoning ring, and you will summon either a recruit or an artifact. And by having a Genesis mask, you're guaranteed to have ultra rare recruits or artifacts in the game. And I can go into a lot more detail about what that means, but basically it's the best items in the games are yours with that mask. The masks are high quality 3D art. We've released, I think, 2 of the 4 masks, the art for the 2 of the 4 masks. And each one has a unique name and backstory about where it was found. And we'll be releasing a couple of the backstories over the coming weeks here. That, like I said, is kind of the first step towards Larva Maiorum, which is a Genesis sale of masks. And then the next step is a release of the Viking-themed warriors and artifacts and items, which will follow a couple months after this, a couple weeks probably at this point, actually, after the sale of the masks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So obviously the masks give you a great benefit in the game. But to begin playing, do I need a mask? Do I need what do I need to begin playing the game moving forward?
Yeah. So you're gonna to play the full experience of Larva Maiorum, you'll need to have a recruit to either send into the war bands or to become a crafter or start battling as a gladiator. And the mask is the way you get those. And now we have the Genesis masks now. The way the sales will always work in the future is by buying a mask, and then that allows you to mint one of those things in the future at no additional cost for those. There will be 111 free masks that you have to get on the mask list to be able to mint. And then the game itself, because of scale, we definitely want to have a totally free to play, low stakes, just get started thing there too. And your badges might have something to do with that too. And I'm actually kind of hopeful that Delph's Table, a game we're releasing soon, can grow into that sort of free to play part of Larva Maiorum as well.
Awesome. So, just to quickly recap for everybody. So we have Larva Maiorum is on the way. We're waiting for a little bit more development and a couple pieces to come together on the scale side. Additionally, masks are coming soon, or at least the Genesis collection. We're waiting for the Calypso NFT Hub on that front. And in the meantime, we have different badges and things like that users can find, collect, and access that will be usable throughout some of these different iterations coming down the road. And it sounds like as we have Crypto Colosseum Classic, we have Crypto Colosseum Larva Maiorum on the way with a mini game. We can expect that, or at least I think the users can expect that, if they are interested in participating in this community now, they can expect that this project will continue to grow and put out different variations for them to play as long as it continues to be successful.
That's right.
That's kind of. Oh, or do you answer it? I was going to say you didn't have to answer it, but that's awesome. So, thank you for joining us today. I think we got a lot of really great information back into the Crypto Colosseum franchise, we can almost put it, and the builder behind the upcoming game, Larva Maiorum, coming to scale hopefully very soon. If you have any questions for us or Topper, feel free to reach out in Discord or on either of our Twitters. I think Topper and Gandhi are both very active on that front. And we'll see you guys soon for the next episode of LiliPod. Thanks, Topper.
Thanks for having me.